With issues around the ANC, the party is also holding its National Executive Committee meeting this morning until Saturday in Boksburg. That, of course, is on Gauteng's East Rand. This is the first NEC meeting since this year's elections. In a statement, the party says they'll reflect on the polls, the state of the organization, and its programs going forward. Watching those developments is our reporter Samkele Maseko, who joins us now live from Boksburg. And Samkele, no overstating how important this first NEC meeting is. It's an organization that's been absolutely battered at the polls and has recently had to expel someone once at the helm of the party for years. There's plenty on the agenda.
Indeed, and there is plenty on the agenda. You speak of that electoral battering. It is at the hands of that man who was at the helm of this particular organization from the 1991 Durban-Westville Conference, where he was elected as the Deputy Secretary General of the ANC, subsequently also provincial chair of the province of KwaZulu-Natal, went on to be the Deputy President of the ANC and ultimately the President. So he has effectively been at the top echelons of this organization for over 3 decades, from 1991 till to date. But this NEC will take stock of how he single-handedly dropped the ANC under 50% with his MK organization. He's subsequently been expelled. The ANC has held various provincial elections teams at stock-taking meetings in all provinces, also went to RET meetings, which will speak about regional elections team meetings, taking stock of the electoral decline in the various regions as well. Well, Zugoko Limpi says
Yes. So the National Executive Committee meeting is our first ordinary meeting after the elections. The last meeting we had was a special NEC meeting. We met then to try find a way to form a government within the 14-day parameters that the Constitution provides. Now we are going to do a deep dive into the data points that you're speaking about. We've now consolidated all the information from our regional structures, from the wards and the VDs. So the National Executive Committee is going to do a deep analysis of the electoral trends. And just to answer the point that you're raising about losing the 17% margin in one cycle, look, it was a huge decline for the ANC. And we do understand how it came about. We know where we lost the bulk of the votes, and we now know what sort of work must be done on that front. But this NEC is going to then come up with a clear action plan for structures on the ground to respond to that decline. But we're also going to talk about our strategic approach to government. How do we improve the performance of the ANC, given the fact that, objectively speaking, one of the major weaknesses that the electorate has been pointing out is the slow pace of service delivery. It's the troubles that are facing the local government sphere, whether it's issues of electricity, whether it's water, it's infrastructure. So the NEC meeting is going to have to look at those and find a way out of that. But otherwise, we are in a position to now better understand where the ANC is, and we will have a clear outcome of what to do to improve our position going forward.
How do you improve the organizational quagmire you are in, particularly having dropped that 17%? Bulk of those votes went in 3 provinces, Gauteng, Mpumalanga, and the onslaught was in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, where you lost over, 2 million votes.
You know, if you study South Africa's electoral trends, there have been many interesting dynamics. Let's take a case in point. The ANC started off in KwaZulu-Natal around 33% in 1994. It started about 44% or so in 2004. What happened in 2009? It jumped about 16% to sit at about, it was 15.9% or so to sit at about 62%. And then it had a steady growth over that period, and then it started to decline. So we now know where that came about. We know where the jump came. We now know where the slump also came. So clearly, the 2 most populous provinces, KZN and Gauteng, are an area that the ANC has got to pay attention to. And of course, there is the contagion that played out in Mpumalanga as well. But the ANC is experiencing a decline across the board. You've seen the outcomes in the Northern Cape. But there's also the objective fact that the voter turnout in general is on the decline. So all of those factors combined, the ANC is going to have to discuss a way of how to re-engage with them. One of the principal concerns we have is that you have a growing number of eligible voters not showing up at the polls. And that increasing majority of non-voting eligible voters is a major concern as well. All political parties should at least be concerned about it, but the ANC in this meeting is going to have to come up with a clear idea of what to say to its structures and what to do in government in order to regalvanize the electoral base and get the ANC back on track with this traditional voting base, but also win over some of the people who abandoned it at the election polls.
Are you being overshadowed by the Democratic Alliance ministers in cabinet?
There's no such a thing. There's no overshadowing of anybody in cabinet. Anything that you've heard any minister speaking about in the past month, it's a continuation of the policy program of the 6th administration. The ANC has no concern of that sort. We are quite clear that even the statement of intent of the GNU is pretty much predicated on the ANC's 6 priorities. I don't think anybody is overshadowing me in government, for instance. So I don't know this thing that the ANC is supposedly sitting in some corner worried about being overshadowed. Nobody has done anything other than what the ANC has been doing so far.
Have you had any word from former President Jacob Zuma whether he's appealing his expulsion or not?
That will be directed to the National Disciplinary Committee of Appeals, but they have not indicated a receipt of any correspondence to that effect. But do remember, he has 21 days to figure out what to do, but so far we have not heard anything.
On the issue of the court case in KwaZulu-Natal over the patent of Umkhonto weSizwe, who's representing you within that particular case, have you changed legal strategies?
No, the legal strategy is still the same. We are defending the heritage of the ANC. We are defending what we believe is the political and moral property of the ANC. Umkhonto weSizwe, as we know, was the armed wing of the ANC. For anybody to wake up donning its symbols in public, regardless of who they are, it's a contestable thing. The legal representatives, they were briefed by the legal team. I cannot at this point tell you who's going to be taking the stand on behalf of the ANC, but we are certainly appealing that decision.
When you look at the overall electoral decline, you look at the spat that is there between the Youth League President Colin Malaji and the Gauteng head of elections, Lebogang Maile. Basically, Colin Malaji saying there was no election campaign in Gauteng, and you've heard those disparaging words Maile had to say about Colin Malaji. How do you contain those particular spats when you are declining electorally?
The ANC has experienced an electoral decline across the board, so that's the starting point. We are not venturing into who's responsible for a decline in what space or the other. But the Secretary General has already expressed that he's going to have a stern conversation with all structures of the ANC, with all leaders of the ANC, to close rank and hold the line and not engage in public discourse that can undermine the effort of a recovery. But the NEC is not going to sit and discuss personalities. We will discuss a strategic approach to building a recovery plan for the ANC across the board. And all leaders of the ANC are going to get strict orders to hold the line, to reinforce each other publicly, and to minimize distractions that are not helping the ANC in any way.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lukoko Zimpi. This is Zukoko Dimpi, acting spokesperson of the ANC. As you can see, Andile Lungisa, ANC NEC member, arriving as well, and also Nokuthula Nqaba, the Secretary General of the ANC Women's League. Earlier on, behind her, where Nokuthula is currently, she is with Noxolo Kivit, who is a former Minister of Public Administration within the country and former Speaker and former Premier of the Eastern Cape Province. There are a number of other NEC members. I've seen Nono Maloi, the Provincial Chair of the ANC in the Northwest Province. He has also arrived. The NEC meeting is scheduled to begin at about 10 o'clock. Ayanda.
Oh, to be a fly on the wall inside that meeting. Samkele Maseko. For now, thanks very much indeed. Samkele is live to us there from Boksburg.